Hello. How's it going, everyone? Hope you're all good. Here we are. It's a Monday. We're going to draw. It's a Monday. It's a Thursday. It's been a long week, is what it's been. But we'll get into that. We are going to do essentially a continuation from what we did on Monday. I really enjoyed the energy of the session, and if I'm totally honest, this was the easiest thing for me to get together today, which I'll get into. Anyway, hope everyone's good. We're going to start with arguably one of the quietest poses we may have ever done. Have we ever just done a very standard standing pose? I'm not sure. Oh, this is a nice one. So let me turn down the music. That's probably good, but let me know if it's too loud. I can turn it down. All right, let's draw. I will set the timer. Probably at 20, 25. Let's see. Let's see how we go. All right. That's, what would we call this? 3/4 front, I guess. It's really nice to try and find the dynamics of the relationship between the upper and the lower torso, especially in the back of the form here. We get this very nice kind of expression from the front, something that feels almost a little bit straighter, and then we're going to be coming down the leg this way. Something like that. I am obviously not, I'm only drawing down roughly down to about the knee here. Because, you know, when you get below the knee, unless it's saying something interesting, it's just taking up valuable real estate. We can kind of see the side of the form sitting about there, right? It's really useful. Center line. Let's get our center line. Our all-important center line. Somewhere in there. Aces is going to be sitting. Iliac crest out here. Coming around the form, somewhere like that. And inguinal ligaments coming down this way, obviously. Something like that. Yeah, I agree, Lily. These quiet poses actually can be pretty epic in their own right. Something like that. Look at the way the deltoid is actually thinner, and then we get the compression where the tricep is kind of pressing against her form, and we get that area there. So you always think, okay, our shoulders are the widest point, but it's interesting how we get this relationship quite a lot. Richard, where were the cutoff points that avoid uncanny feelings again? At the joints, it's horrible. Halfway down the calves is okay. Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. yeah, you don't really want to cut off at the knee, although here's the thing. I think you can, if you can find a way to make it aesthetic, you can really kind of cut off anywhere. But I do agree that cutting off at the knee or at the elbow can feel a little bit forced. So yeah, probably just below that it does kind of make sense. Even just that far down, you know, we'll call it. Let's find the arch of the rib cage, which we can see quite nicely. Sitting in here. Our navel sitting about here. And once again, I'm going to use that center line coming off the navel to help describe the topography of the form. You can see the way that that really helps us understand the volume of the belly and that oblique coming down, sitting in here, right? Sitting in that area there. Pectoral sitting in here. Something like that. Can't see the right arm at all. I think I can actually see her hand down here, right? Her right hand. Definitely something I'm going to leave off. It's just going to confuse the viewer. See the shoulder sitting in here. And we've got a lovely relationship between the light and the tone. Lovely clear kind of shadow shapes to work with, so we'll get into all of that. So So I'm obviously going behind the form here. Something like that. Oh, I'm drawing a little bit off the page there, aren't I? It is what it is. I'm not quite sure why the camera's zoomed in a little more than usual. Anyway. Okay. If you even think about our shadow mapping at this point, I think Not quite sold on the positioning of that head. I'm not quite sure where the drawing went wrong there, but I think I'll be able to make it work. Let's see. Something looks cool. I'm going to pull the neck over just a tiny bit there. Trapezius coming down. Ribbons there. Something like that. Yeah, I'll be fine. Leak. Gauge. I'm going to pull the navel up just a tiny bit. Although, actually no. Let's see. Oh, there we go. First of the session. It's bound to happen. Maybe we must move that navel over just a hair there. Lulu, like a bit of off-topic help, that's okay. I'm going to separate my bedroom into an art room and bedroom using 1x2s and 4x4s and plasterboard. Any tips on what I should account for? You know, one tip I do have is don't be cheap with light socket or electric outlets. Really give yourself plenty of additional outlets, assuming you're going to wire up as well, do electrics. I would also consider going with I don't know what is standard convention where you live, Lulu. You might want to go with 2x4s instead of 4x4s, possibly. You're going to want to give yourself as much real estate as possible. Don't know if you're going to need walls that thick. But once again, this is getting way out of my having a separate space is great for work, I've been told multiple times, so I'm biting the bullet. You know, my feeling on that is I think it's important if you share the space with other people. I personally, if it was just me, for example, I tend to want to lean the other way and have my living space in a single space. It's easier to heat. It's every wall you put up, you potentially cut off natural light sources. None of those things may be considerations in your case. I don't know, but yeah, it's a tough one. But no, I can't. I think, yeah, like, you know, if doing art with natural light is important to you, then be very mindful of where you put up for art partitions, you know, would be my feeling. But no, you know, I've created so many studio spaces in my time where I've either converted garages or spaces to work as art spaces, and I find that a space will, like, if you've got any mind for it at all, and you're an engineer, so you clearly do. But spaces tend to tell you what to do with them, if that makes sense, you know? That's in my experience. So yeah, let's just block in some of our large shadow shapes. I'll tell you one thing, Lulu. Shelves. Shelves. Building in shelves is super useful. I would definitely recommend you consider that. It'll make, especially if it's a small space, it'll give you so much, you know, just to have that real estate, to put things, you know, makes a huge difference. It's like I didn't put the shelves in this room. They were here when I got here, but it really did kind of make me realize how much I use them and how important I think they are. Camille, hey, I'm amazed you almost never use a razor. How do you have such steady hand and movements? Camille, a lot of it, honestly, seriously, a lot of it comes from how I'm holding the pencil and I'm drawing from the shoulder and the elbow, and I'm not drawing from the wrist. Gives you a level of control, in my opinion, that is far better than if you're holding the pencil in a handwriting type style. Okay, that would be my advice. My space has evolved over the past couple of years. Well, that's the other thing. Spaces do tend to evolve for sure. Worried about how to ration the space, maybe go diagonal instead of square. Without seeing the space, it's really, really hard to say. Lulu, you'd be the best judge of that. All right, where are we at? 21 minutes. I think I'm just going to block in a little bit of this tone and then we'll see where we're at. But, you know, this is kind of a warm-up pose. I don't want to flog this one to death. So let's do a bit of colouring in and see where we're at. Good luck with your project, Lulu, and please feel free to post progress pics if you feel so inclined on Discord. I'd be very curious to see what you're doing. Not to be nosy or anything, but, you know. This music's killing me. It's too much. Where's Debussy? Let's start with this. This is nice. So cool. There we go. Sammy says, my pennies have tried temporary dividing walls before. Not a bad idea. Even, honestly, hanging sheets roughly where you think you're going to put those walls could be a very useful exercise, all right? The only other thing I would say, I don't know if where you live is earthquake country, but if it is, don't forget to tie your studs to, you know, the surfaces they're connected to. Last thing you want is floating walls that float all over the place in a minor earthquake. Yeah, I can tell you that from having lived in California. It's a consideration. Some places. Thank you, Tina. Appreciate it. All right, let's just hit a couple of highlights. All right. Okay. Yes to wheels. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for having the ability to move things around, all right. All right, let's take a look at the next pose. All right, I think I'm going to have to go to landscape mode for the next one. So let's just move things around. All right, here we go. Good enough? Good enough. This is going to be a tough pose. Luckily, the next one will give us a little bit of a break. This is probably the hardest pose of the set. So this one, we're kind of shifting gears, right? We're in our thought process and to some extent our approach. We kind of jump to more of a analytical approach. We will still be able to find gesture and long lines and all the rest, but it'll be a bit more of a mix. You know the drill. Okay. Let me reset the clock. All right. Let's do this. We're going to draw the forms that are hidden behind other forms. For example, the relationship between the upper and the lower torso in this section here, which is actually covered by the arm. We still want to kind of block it in. We want to understand it, right? We've got we're almost on complete profile right at the top. And then we can kind of see the center line of the form. It almost does that as we come down. Iliac crest is actually sitting in here, right? The oblique is sitting in this region in here. And this is kind of going away from us. So the side of our box, so to speak, is kind of like that, right? And then the box going away from us in this direction, if that makes sense. We could see the top of the box be something like that. And then our knee coming up to about here. Something like that. This leg, obviously. Sitting in here. Our rib cage. Kind of sitting, obviously, here. Something like that. Navel sitting in here. And that'll do for now. Where's this thing there coming up? Pectoral. So actually my head is going to end up going off the blooming page. Alright, I need to scale down just a little bit. This has to be my high point. Elbow and navel are roughly in the same region, so that's about here, okay. This arm coming down this way. Hands sitting there. So we're going to scale things down a little bit in here. Breast is sitting in here. And we'll pull the navel over this way. Sitting in here. That'll work. Pull this leg in. All right. Difficulty level has got jumped up quite a bit, it's true. Okay, so this arm is here, so Scapula's probably sitting about here. It's still going to be tight. Hopefully we can make this work. Right. Hair coming down this way, hanging off her shoulder here. And just kind of hissing up against the edge of the scapula there. Somewhere in there. We haven't even got to the good leg yet, the right leg, which is going to be a bit of fun. I think it's more important to establish this other stuff first. This arm is sitting in here. Wrist is about here. So that hand is going to be about there. All right, let's look at this other leg. So the knee is actually up here. Coming down this way, and yeah, it looks really super weird. That's why hopefully this will make sense when we're all said and done. Somewhere in there. Yeah, strange pose. It's fun. Okay. I'm gonna start to think about tying down. I think, you know, you're working with a room 12 by 12. So you're looking at dividing, because here's the thing you've got to keep in mind. Honestly, Lulu, my my spidey sense is telling me you're working with a space that's too small to divide in half. You're going to end up with two incredibly small rooms. Please keep in mind that when you stud out that wall, you're going to be losing not only the width of the timber, but plasterboard and all the rest. So you're going to have two rooms less than 6 foot, right? Look, good luck. I hope it works, but I would strongly consider dividing that space with sheets, allowing for the width of the wall, right? So hang 2 sheets to really get a sense of what that space is going to look like. I think you might find, like, I don't know, like if you dig tight spaces, great, but you know, even like what Whitney's saying about like having a space for being able to cut mats or cut paper, that type of thing is super useful. Just before you commit in plasterboard, really make sure you're comfortable with what that space looks like in reality. I know for myself now, it would be simply too tight. But that's not to say that it couldn't work a treat for yourself. I'm certainly not going to be the one to try and rain on your parade. Just a reality check, that's all. Something like that. IKEA bookshelf, that will divide. It's true, you could divide it with a bookshelf that has some openness to it and yet still divides the space. Not a terrible idea at all. Something to consider. YouTube recommended a video from you, but I never had anything to do with drawing, but I really liked it. Tried to get started. What kind of pencil do you recommend? I recommend the pencil that you have at hand. But if you, I work almost exclusively with charcoal. If you're just starting out, you might want to start with graphite. there's a number of things to kind of consider. Excuse me. And I have a few other videos that kind of delve into why I make the choices that I make as far as the tools that I use and the materials I use that you can check out. I think a lot of it's ultimately comes down to, you know, you talk to, I know it's the old cliche, but if you talk to 10 people that watch this stream, you probably would find 10 different answers on the best materials to use or the things people like to use the most and that type of thing. And which doesn't help someone starting out try and make some simple decisions. But I guess it illustrates the point that it's kind of it's a very individual kind of journey, and preferences are quite individual. I would probably say start out with some graphite. Graphite, you know what? It's a real nice cheap way to start. Get yourself some soft graphite pencils, 3B, something like that, 3 to 6B pencils, graphite pencils, and some A3 copy paper. Boom, for under a tenner, you've got all the materials that you need to start drawing. And copy paper is a fantastic medium to start on. Graphite works beautifully on it. It's not too smooth, but it's smooth enough so you can blend nicely, and you can start having a whole lot of fun with a very easy point of entry. You don't need any fancy drawing boards, just a board literally just resting on your lap and on the table in front of you, and boom, you've got an angled drawing board. You can pick that board up at the hardware store, a piece of MDF. You'll get that for just a few dollars or euros or pounds depending on where you are. And it's, once again, you don't need a whole lot of fancy supplies to start drawing. You really don't. I have had all the drawing boards and all of that stuff, and look what I'm using. I'm using a piece of MDF board, cheap newsprint paper, and charcoal pencil. Boom, that's all you need. And that's wonderful that YouTube is recommending this to people that are not necessarily seeking it out. That's a great thing. You know, I've got to say, as someone who is I would consider myself a heavy YouTube user, in as much as I watch probably several hours a day of YouTube. And I've got to say, generally speaking, I think the algorithm is pretty smart. Like, not always, but more often than not, it will at least attempt to offer me something that I'm at least not upset that it's offered it, even if it's not something that I'm necessarily looking for. It is great in that regard. Did you just say something nice about YouTube? You know what, Doug? Yeah, the word primitive is a tricky one, Whitney, because I feel like primitive gives a sense that, you know, something's primitive, that it's simplistic in some way. But charcoal is probably the most diverse single drawing material that we have, you know, can be up there with the, you know, pastel or something like that. The ability to blend. I don't know. I love charcoal. Right? Like, I know I could probably make more of an effort to draw with a more variety of materials, but it just checks all the boxes for me. And, as we've discussed many times, it shows up really well on camera, and graphite doesn't. So it's a major reason to be using it, for at least for what I'm doing as well. This is a lovely pose, isn't it? It's like, it's complex, but some great shape language. And yeah, look, here's the thing with YouTube. It's very easy to knock YouTube, and I do get it. It's no platform is perfect, right? Like, absolutely. I can only talk about my own experience with it, and you know, YouTube has offered me something that no other platform has been able to offer me. And I think YouTube has generally offered me more. It's kind of opened up my world to more diversity than anything else. As far as, you know, an entertainment platform or an information platform. And so yeah, I'm a fan, and I know people love to hate on it, and ads and all the rest. It's like, yeah, look, some people abuse the ad thing, some platforms abuse the ad thing. I probably don't abuse it enough, frankly. But, you know, I also, you know, I'm not one of these that demands that everything in my life be free. I pay for YouTube Premium. I'm happy to pay for it, and I'm happy to never have to experience an ad. So, you know, to each their own. But I know some people, they go to great lengths and spend a lot of energy trying to block ads on YouTube, and it's like, I do get that they're frustrating, but for me, it's just, it's well worth the money. And I always find it kind of interesting that the same people that will complain about ads on YouTube are also the ones that will quite happily give some company like Starbucks, you know, $6 for a bloody cup of coffee. It's like, the hypocrisy is mind-boggling to me. Pressed charcoal, Siberian chalk. It's also a great material. I've not tried that. Yeah, there you go, Applehead. Basic pencil and paper. I like it. I'm always, you know, quietly impressed by people that will use really basic materials and not be like seeking out all the, you know, you could spend a bloody fortune on art supplies that you never actually get to. You don't need much. You know, I think we've all seen amazing pieces of work done with like a Bic pen, right? Like, it's possible. It's it's far more about the hand and the mind behind the material than the material itself. But some people like collecting, and for some people collecting art supplies is collecting in its own right, so, you know, go figure. To each their own. Let's just get a little bit of blocking in done here. So this form, the arm kind of turns away from the light at the elbow, so all of this is in tone. So this is in tone. This. Alright, let's do some blending. It's the only social media platform I use. Me too. Look, for the most part, I do kind of put notifications on Instagram and the likes for the stream, but that's about it. I'm trying to get away from that, but you know. Let's just get a little bit of blending and then we'll see where we're at. Thank you, Whitney. I'm not a big fan of the Conte myself, Cookie Monster, at all. I find them very scratchy, although these days, frankly, generals are no better. But I was never keen on Conte because of how scratchy they were. Where are we at time-wise? Oh, we're at 31 minutes. Well, the question at this point in the proceedings is just how much do we want to start going in now? There is a part of me that's tempted to leave this where it is because I feel like it's at a good point. Fun pose, tricky challenge. Do have a very soft cast shadow coming off this hand, but I think we kind of get away with it. All right, I'm gonna call it. All right. Hey, you're on a roll. Thanks, Deborah. This is precisely why I'm stopping, because trust me, this one could go south real easy. I think it's turned out decent enough. Knowing when to stop is a critical part of the process. Okay, let's have a look at the next pose. I think the next one's relative. This is a nice Thursday pose, and the last two, I think. Well, I think the last one is actually going to be a little trickier, but we get a bit of a reprieve with this next one, and then we'll see from there. Stopped right before it rolled into overcooked status. I have overcooked many absolutely fine drawing and decided, oh, let's go for 5 more minutes. You know. Okay. You reset the clock. Quick sip of tea. Just have a quick reset second here. Yay, a freebie. This does feel like that sometimes, right? When you get a relatively straightforward pose. Okay. Working for me. Let's see. This will do. Okay. All right. Let's hold on. Let's reset the clock. Let's draw. Now, the challenge with these types of drawings is we've actually got quite a bit of symmetry, right? So, you know, it is about trying to create visual interest while trying to maintain the symmetry. Can be quite tricky. Sacrum. Richard draws self-portrait once. That would be cool to see. You know, I've never done a self-portrait. You never know. You never know. Scapula sitting in here. This arm is up, so scapula is kind of doing more like that. And this arm is out this way. Arm is going out a bit. Deltoid. Okay. All right, let's see. Sacrum's higher than I initially. Sacrum's actually about here. iliac crest, exactly. So that helps. That helps with proportion. Okay. All right, let's do this thing. That. So now we go straight into the transition, like really subtle, kind of very subtle oblique rib cage. Scapula, deltoid, trapezius. In there. It's a tough transition. This is a very weird angle because this is all kind of pushing towards us, right? So our proportions are feel a little bit counterintuitive, if that makes sense. And you kind of have to fight that. It's actually, I know I say it almost about every pose. This is a trickier pose than it looks on first blush. It's trickier than your average back pose. Let's just put it that way. So, same idea on this side. Rib cage. Scapula. And then we meet up into chromium process. We can see right here, deltoid sitting in there. And then, yeah. Bicep sitting in here, coming up to our elbow. Coming back down. This is kind of going away from us, right? Something like that. Yeah, tricky. Compression in the trapezius right here, coming into our deltoid and then into our bicep there. Something like that. Super subtle for foreshortening. Hey, Rick. How you doing, man? And Mila? Mila and Rick walk in the door at the same time. Well, welcome both of you. I've been teaching pastel for the first time. Awesome. How nice. I hope it went well. That's great. Cool. All right. Something like that. Pushing her hair up here. I am going to change pencil. And I'm going to start thinking about tone. All right. Went great, but I was super stressed. Look, that's gonna happen, right? The more you do it, obviously, it's like you won't even be thinking about it. So it's understandable that there should be adrenaline first time doing something like that. That's very normal and natural. But it's great that you did it. You've done something that you hadn't done before, and that's an achievement. Okay. Just do a little bit of blend. You know the drill. All right. Yeah, let's just, you know, a couple of highlights. All right. Seems like a good place to stop. Trickier pose than it looks. So hopefully it went okay for you guys. Oh yeah, that's great. Tina says, nice balance. Yesterday's live drawing co-op. The model's most recent gig was modeling for an animation class. She was amazingly athletic, and I bet the poses were quite challenging. Richard, can you talk about the subtleties of color use? I'm working on an all red painting. To what extent is it important to add different shades of red? Well, look, if you're working on an all red painting, you're essentially working on a monochromatic painting. So you could be working on an all gray painting, right? Doesn't really matter if it's all red. What extent is it important to use different shades of red? Well, you want to have tonal range that will represent what is in light, what is in shadow. I would say keep it relatively simple, even if it's just a tonal tonal painting, your relationships between light and shadow and that are almost, I won't say more important, but as important as ever. You know what might be a useful thing for you to do, Cookie Monster, is every now and then take a photo of your painting and turn it to grayscale, desaturate it, so you can see the relationship between your lights and your darks. It'll just give you a real clear sense of whether it's working. Because if it doesn't work in black and white, it's not going to work in red or any other color that you might be painting in. Your tonal relationships, your value relationships are going to be super important. So, as I said, the best way to judge that would be to just take a photo, desaturate it, and go, okay, my darker darks need to be a bit darker, or my lights need to be a bit lighter. It'll help, just because you know what happens when you're painting in oil, especially something as intense as red, is it's very easy to get like snow blind, right? Like we just like all reds start looking the same, and it's just hard to kind of even make a good judgment call on what it is that you're looking at. That's where I think the desaturation trick is super useful. So try that. You'll know when you need more darks or more lights in your painting, relatively, right? Okay, let's hit this last pose, shall we? I think I can probably afford to just work in this aspect ratio. Do it. Yeah, look, that's just my thoughts. Red's tough, but you know, I've done paintings in like you know, in single colors before, like monochromatic paintings. But you really do, you just need to really just watch your values. Precious spawn. Nice. I am working on a natural redhead, but in charcoal. Finally dawned to turn the image to grayscale, and it worked. Yeah. You know, another thing that's really useful for checking purport, if you're working on a face or something and something doesn't feel right, this is the oldest trick in the book. This is not my idea. This is something that literally has been going on for the last couple of 100 years, but like ever since mirrors were invented, is take a photo of your portrait or whatever it is. If the symmetry doesn't feel right, something feels off, and flip it 180 degrees and look at a mirrored version of it. And guess what? It's like looking at it with a new set of eyes, and you'll immediately be able to tell, or hopefully not maybe immediately, but it will help in your problem solving of why something might be off, whether it's a proportion or the eyes aren't quite lined up or whatever it might be. Flipping it, and you know, if you're painting digitally or whatever, you can flip something horizontally easily, obviously. Great way to just reset the brain and have a chance to look at it kind of through a fresh pair of eyes. Turning it upside down can help too, for sure. The only thing with turning it upside down is if you're working on something like a portrait, it can get a little bit kind of, it's fine looking at it upside down, but then working on it upside down is not really going to be practical. But yes, it's the same philosophy, obviously. Yeah, 100%. Okay, let me reset the clock. Last pose. this leg kind of coming towards us, right? She's cross-legged for those that don't have the reference. She's sitting here kind of like this. So like, you can see half is sitting under here and got a lot of foreshortening of those under there, so we'll come back to that. Rib cage comes to an end. We can see her tummy sitting here, and if we could see behind her leg, be going down here. Shoulders about here. Actually, you've got, we need to, if her knee is here, which does feel right, maybe that's a little bit. And the song is sitting here. This knee is about here. Pectoral coming down. Breast is sitting in here. Bill, welcome. Good to have you along. If you're not familiar, Bill, you will, if you go to the community chat tab on the channel page and you go down, you'll find a link to the references hosted on my website. You click that link and you'll go to the page with the reference, and yeah, you can draw along. Good to have you on board. All right. Yeah, cool. Okay. I can't see it, but I think her ear is about here. And her face is about there, right? It is covered by her hand, which we will be drawing shortly. I just want to get in the overall. Once again, drawing not only what we can see, but what we can't see, right? Eye is about there, right? And something like that. Yeah, that's a good idea, Whitney, to walk away. You know, also to take a photo of something and then just have it on your phone, and an hour later just be sitting on the couch or something, pull it up, look at it, and sometimes you go, oh, that needs looking at. Plenty of different tricks for problem solving, which is good. Okay. So this hand, let's deal with this hand because it is covering a lot of her face. Wrist is here. I've got to say something that I won't say come to rely on, but I do subconsciously look for it even when I'm not drawing on stream, is on right in front of me, when like just below the camera that I talk into, I have my what's called OBS, which is the software which I stream from, and I have the display of the drawing that I'm working on, and I'll often glance at that display and I'll look at the drawing on the monitor, and I will see mistakes that I'm not seeing looking straight at it here, funnily enough. So that's kind of the equivalent of my real-time mirror, let's say. Really kind of useful. Did I hear Debussy? You did. You did. Richard, I really enjoyed your video. Adam, master copy. Hope to see more in the future. I'm glad you liked it, mate. Yeah, like there's a... Yeah, if you dig around the channel, you'll find a number of those time lapses. I haven't posted any in a while. That was actually from... that was from a live stream. We did that image. So her hand is roughly about there, right? Yeah. But yeah, it was a bit of a fun drawing to do. We actually, that was from our, we did a master copy session. Should probably do another one of those. Looking at this negative space in here just to make sure that my relationships are, once again, looking at multiple forms of measurement, right? Depending on what it is that we're drawing, and just looking at that negative shape in here kind of helps just make sure everything's, you know, keeps you honest. All right, I think I've got a fairly decent handle on the blocking. Oh, we do have this, her calf is here. We do have her feet to just quickly look at. So we do have kind of just squished in here. This foot, some toes in here. Our other foot, which is on a super weird angle. Okay, let's do some tie down. Okay, so deltoid about here, right? Something like that. Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it. All right, let's see now. Okay. All right. Oh, not to worry, we're on the last drawing. We can afford to sacrifice a little charcoal to the charcoal gods. Okay. Nice cookie. Sounds like fun. All right, let's see now. Where are we at time-wise? Okay, so it's 10:02. Very subtle, very subtle tone transitions here. I want to be mindful of how we want to treat that. Tricky actually, the light and tone on this, just very, very subtle. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do with it. We'll see. It's really one of those squint and simplify type of exercises. All right, let's start to think about just throwing in some tone in this thing. Then we'll tie a bow around the whole thing and call it a day. Call it a week. Just so you guys know, we're going to be back on Monday. The schedule could get a little bit tricky over the coming weeks. It looks very likely that I am going to have some surgery. It looks like things have not gone quite as we had hoped with the remission, so I found out this on just this week, so it's early days and I'm not sure quite how it's going to play out, but I'm probably going to be out of action at some point in the next few weeks for a week or two would be my guess, but I'll keep you guys posted as time goes on. Once I know more, I'm meeting with the doctors next Tuesday. We should know more at that point. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a weird few weeks to say the least. So yeah, I'll keep you informed. Anyway, we will be back on Monday. We will. Not sure what we'll do. You know, here's the thing, just because of where I'm at psychologically right now, as you can imagine, it's all a bit of a weird space. There's a very good chance I'm going to pick some super easy sessions, kind of even just doing stuff like we're doing here. Stuff that doesn't require me to have to think too hard, to be honest. So yeah, and I'll apologize ahead of time if some of the sessions feel a little repetitive in subject matter and or tone. I will try and keep it interesting. I'm just like giving you a reality of a heads up of what's going on. So you know, you'll have to forgive me if things don't seem to have their usual flourish, we'll say. Anyhow, we'll be fine, I'm sure. All right. Yeah, real subtle transitions with this pose. Not sure I quite captured it to the degree I wanted to, but we'll see. Maybe the eraser will bring some magic to the proceedings. Let's see. Thanks, guys. Easy stuff, part of the course. Yeah, let's see. I agree. The group is important to me, and it's important that we try and keep going in some form or another. Thank you very much for the kind words, all of you. Really. All right, let's see. Yeah, this is all a bit busy. But I'm kind of pleased enough with the overall pose. I think we got the gist of it, right? Yeah, I hear you, Lily. Anyway, I am tempted to leave this one here. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it might have to be good enough, if you know what I mean. All right, guys, we made it. We made it through another session. Yeah, that was a bit of fun, huh? Some fun poses. I've been wanting to do this cross-legged one for a little bit now. It's always fun about cross-legged poses. I don't know quite why, but I always enjoy them. Good stuff, guys. It's been fun, really. It's been a good session. So yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Yeah, Monday. Okay. Please take care of yourselves. Do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind. Hit the like button on your way out the door, yada yada. Apparently it helps. And I will see you all next week. And in the meantime, please look after yourselves, okay? sorry to hear that you haven't been well, Canvas. Hope you get better. Hope that you come back better than ever. Guys, you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you. I'll see you next week. All right. Cheers. Take care. Bye.